Hello, welcome to Beyond Boundaries. Today I'm joined by Freddie Scarratt, a good friend from Gallagher Re. Hello, Freddie.
Hi, thanks for having us.
You're welcome. And a man I have just met, and I'm sure we're going to be great friends, Mark Titmarsh.
Nice to meet
Hello,
you.
Mark. From Testudo as well. And that's very important because we're going to be diving into your business. Because I think you might be in one of the most interesting spaces of all right now. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
We are going to explore the partnership between the pair of you guys. So, in all good partnerships, there's always an origin story. Let's start there. Let's get into it. Who found who? How did it start? Come on.
Well, I think with a lot of connections in the innovation space, it started with someone texting me saying, "Have you met Mark?
Okay, great.
You should." And me being like, "Perfect. Would love to meet him. What does he do? What's the business?"
Lovely. And how did that come about? So then you reached out to Mark?
Reached out. I think we were put in touch. I can't quite remember who emailed who. And then we had an initial meeting. And the space Mark is in is something which we had been researching probably for the preceding 6 months. And so jumped at the opportunity to meet someone else in that market. And then after that initial conversation with Mark and Mark's team, realised that there's potentially could be a great way of working together.
Okay.
And then it snowballed from there. I think we had 3 meetings in 2 weeks and then just carried on from there.
And Mark, from your side, can you remember the message coming in from Freddie or the intro?
I can indeed, yes. We got a message, and I think the place we actually met for the first time was a coffee at the Ned. So that was very, very great.
That's so London, isn't it? That's so London, so insurance. I love it.
Very cliche.
Who bought the coffee?
Oh, Freddie.
I think Pat Gallagher, technically.
Yeah, very generous.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then how is the chemistry? How is that? I mean, I don't know if you were where you were in your journey. In fact, maybe we should start there, right? As opposed to dive into the chemistry. Were you looking for a Gallagher Re in your life at that point? Were you just open to coffee? Let's hear what these guys had to say.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it exactly was what we were looking for at that point in time. So Testudo, at its point in the journey, has obviously spent the last 6 or 7 months building out what is a database effectively for AI liability risks, and that is turning into our risk engine. And what we were then looking to do with that risk engine was actually to bring a new AI liability product to market. So it was very timely that Freddie got in touch because the ambitions of the company over the next few months is to bring a new AI liability product to market. And a huge part of that is, of course, having a reinsurance broker. So it was very timely of you, Freddie, and yeah, it was meant to be.
And what about you, Freddie? You were saying, so you spent 6 months looking into this space.
Yeah.
And then an introduction allowed you to lean in a little bit more and get in touch with Mark. Tell me why this space was of interest to you. What was going on for you guys?
Yeah, so part of what our team does is we scout the market for what we think is going to be the next emerging space. So, the history of Gallagher Re as a company, a lot of it was built on the success of our cyber reinsurance team, which went from one man to a huge business, the largest in the market now. And so we're always on the lookout for that next class of business to drive the growth. And to my mind, AI is obviously such a buzzword at the moment, but there must be some implications in terms of insurance. So what might those be? How do we think about that? So we started a task force at Gallagher Re between the InsurTech team and our cyber reinsurance colleagues to just start exploring the space. Is there insurance? Who is providing it? What does it look like? Cyber reinsurance clients of ours also started asking the questions. And if clients are asking, well, you probably should be doing some research into it. So we spent probably the second half of last year just starting to take note. Munich Re kind of led the way. So what are they doing? What does their policy look like? And then, okay, so we like this space. Do we think it's going to be a class of business? And if we do think it's a class of business, how can we at Gallagher Re bring a product to market, given we're a reinsurance broker, to help grow the space? And so we spent a lot of time looking for someone to partner with, which made sense from a product point of view, but also made commercial sense for Gallagher Re. And Testudo was the one where we had the most in common, and very pleased that they chose to work with us.
Great. So, Mark, give us a little insight into the business. I mean, you told us, the one sentence intro to Testudo, and going from a database to an engine where you're at now, or your plan is to be maybe. Just give me the highlight, right? So roll back to the beginning for you.
Sure.
Where are you from? What's your background into this? As I say, first time meeting.
Absolutely. So my background is mostly in the insurance market.
Okay.
So we're coming up now to 12 years. So I have plenty of exposure to it. 2.5 years also as a global head of digital assets, building out a private security business for private key management for the likes of large custodians in the digital asset space. What really was apparent when I was building that out is the wonderful impact insurance can have on bringing new technologies to market, especially around the deployment of those. And my co-founder, who I met, who was at Goldman Sachs, was responsible for setting up basically the Bitcoin lending facility. A huge problem that they had internally was the liability exposure should one of those custodians fail. So he also saw how wonderful insurance is in terms of unlocking use cases of new technologies. He was based in San Francisco, and we were talking every day at this point in time, 2 years before we set up the company. And this was around when ChatGPT absolutely boomed. And his mentor at Goldman was very close to rolling out the technology across the firm. And we had an initial conversation there. And again, insurance came up. How can insurance enable technologies to be rolled out across the firm? So, light bulb went off. We thought this is a really great use case for a new product. Like Freddie and the Gallagher guys were convicted this is going to be a new class of business and insurance. So we decided to quit our jobs. We thankfully raised money within about a month to set up a company with a sole focus to begin with on finding out what the state of play is regarding AI risk. Our subsector of that is generative AI and the liability risk, because that's where during our customer conversations, we see most of the concern lies. It's, okay, it's all well and good rolling out this technology, but what happens if it goes wrong, and what's the liability exposure to me? So to understand the state of play, we built out basically a data and technology company, which focuses on building out a very robust database of all of the AI litigation in the world and basically labeling that using our own technology and pipelines that we've built to build basically loss data, so we can start to model where these risks are likely to come up. That's based on the firm, which is very obviously traditional in the insurance sense around industry revenues, but also the characteristics of the AI system. With that risk engine that we've built, it's going to form basically the foundation, and we hope a very robust foundation of our underwriting model, which allows us to ultimately, one, underwrite these AI liability risks, bring a product to market, and put a good price on it.
And how is the business being received?
It's being received very well. I'm sitting here in the Lloyd's Lab jumper today.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so this is a great milestone for the business. We were lucky enough to be part of the Lloyd's Lab cohort, which is probably the best cohort we've been part of in this early stage of Testudo. It's being received well. We're having great conversations with capacity providers. We've got amazing feedback on the data, the technology, the risk engine. And of course, this is why we've entered into a partnership with Gallagher Re, is to bring that product to market now.
And how are Gallagher Re helping you? So how does this partnership? What does it look like in its entirety?
Sure. So what I would say is the reason we chose Gallagher Re is it's not transactional. This is an emerging class of business, and it's not just about placing a risk for us. It is more than that. Gallagher Re, of course, and Freddie and his team especially have the InsurTech advisory, which really helps founders like me what's important, as well as they know what not to do, and help us founders with that. You've obviously got the wider risk team as well that Ed leads around offering feedback on the risk modeling, a wonderful team of actuaries who can help us with our pricing methodology. I'd say probably the best wording specialist from the cyber market as well, who can help us with that product creation. So it's really great to work with Gallagher, and the reason we obviously chose them is because it's more of a partnership, and most importantly, they're convicted on this being a new class of business as well.
Yeah. And what about you, Freddie? So you were saying about, so you spent this time looking at the space. You then were introduced. You had a quick series of meetings, and then it felt like the right fit. Let's get into bed with these guys. Where do you see the value that you can bring? We've heard a few things from Mark, of course.
Yeah, so we were delighted when Testudo asked us to for want of a better phrase, RFP to them. Present what we thought we could do for them, and I think the USP Gallagher Re brings is the partnership between our InsurTech team, which Andrew Johnson out in the US and I run, and then the broker specialist teams within Gallagher Re. So as I said earlier, we very quickly thought that the AI area would be a section between InsurTech and cyber. So it was that combination we took to the meeting to present how we would work. So the advisory and the innovation advice from me and my team, and then the cyber specialism and everything Mark just said there as well. And what we look to do is, it's not just, here is a deck, will you back this risk or not? It is so much more than that. It's taking time for underwriters to get to know the team, to understand how the business is going to work, to understand the risk modeling. And that is very different to standard reinsurance broking. And so it's a much longer process, and you have to really get your feet under the desk. You have to get very comfortable with the team you're working with. And we do this with all of our InsurTech clients. It's much more of a partnership because it has to be. And, in the same way Testudo evaluates us, we evaluate every InsurTech we work with. So what we're looking for is, how viable is their business? What is their leadership team like? That's really important, because founders drive the business in the early days. And without good founders, you don't have good businesses, as I'm sure you know better than anyone. And then thirdly, what's their ability to raise capital? So we at Gallagher Re do not invest, but we are investing time and IP. So we need to make sure that the companies we invest time and IP into are also going to then hold up their side of the bargain, which is to run a successful company and come to market. And Testudo ticks every single one of those boxes.
Good. Now, I don't want to get into difficult questions. You see where I'm going to go with this. But you guys are going to be running, I know you're called Testudo, which is, if I'm right, if I go back to my Latin when I was younger, it's tortoise, right? Or turtle, tortoise.
Hang on.
Yeah, okay, good. But you're running at a hell of a pace.
Yep.
Yeah, you're a young company that has a lot of opportunity in front of it, a market that is open and really wanting to talk to you, right? And we have so much coming in from our clients around your space. You have no idea, right? It's the hot business of the time. How can you balance the pace that you work at with a Gallagher Re, who is probably at the forefront of fine-tuning your business to be able to work at a pace with your InsurTech clients, but you're still a behemoth, right, in the market? Are you both running in sync? Is there a pace difference? Are there any challenges from both sides, right, in a relationship like this? Because there are certain tick boxes you have to go through, certain controls that are in place, of course, as a big company. I'm thinking Freddie on your side, and much less so, when just getting on with things. Any challenges, learnings that you are happy to share? Because it can't always be so.
No, look, you're exactly right. We're working with founders who, this is their livelihood and everything they want, and this isn't just Testudo, but everything they're doing in their life is to get that business to be a success. And at Gallagher Re, we have many clients, and we are working for all of them.
Yeah.
And it's balancing the priority of work. So one thing we always try and do is be very clear on communication and timelines. So one of the things I don't do for my, sophisticated reinsurance clients is tier all of the conversations I'm having with capacity providers, because they don't need that kind of granular level of detail. I just, they know we're in the market and they have confidence in our ability to place it. With InsurTech clients of mine, I like to be very clear. We are having these conversations with these markets, and they are at tier 1, they're at tier 2, they're at tier 3, and all of those mean something, and we have a table, and we try and be very clear so that they can kind of monitor the progress in a way that actually most of my clients don't need to, but I feel it gives, and hopefully you don't disagree with this, it gives the founders of that business confidence that things are moving forward, because they need it more than someone who, head of a seeded re for a large international insurance client needs.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree with Freddie. Like the secret here is just being open and transparent and setting expectations. I guess with my background, I'm probably a little bit more sheltered to the getting the capacity process and how long it can take. But you make a good point. A startup strength is the speed it can operate at, and a week for us feels like a year. But what I would also add to that is, because this is more of a partnership with Gallagher Re rather than a transaction, yes, there's the capacity work stream, but there's so much more we can be doing together in the meantime, which is obviously the risk engineering, looking at the modeling, looking at the pricing, the policy wordings, and developing the product proposition itself. So Yeah, I would say that there's nothing that we've butted heads on yet.
No,
and it's
I
going
think
extremely well.
I think importantly, when we presented to you back in end of February, I think it was, start of March, the last slide of the presentation is a timeline slide, and it says we are looking to get you live by this date, and these are all the things we're going to do before that date. That date hasn't moved, and so not that we've had this, but I have had this with other clients. If there is pressure to move quicker, I go, well, look, this is the timeline we all agreed on when we came on board to help you. We are on track to meet that timeline, and that's kind of the best way to deal with it.
Yeah, and I would add, look, as a startup as well, our product is constantly evolving, especially on the technology side. A huge part of our USP is around the data, the accuracy of that data, and how viable that is for modeling. So there is always much work that can be getting done there. So we can balance the two work streams pretty nicely.
Yeah, I love it. It's like being an observer into a beautiful relationship. This. Mark, can I ask you quickly on the Lloyd's Lab? Let's go a little bit deeper in that. So you may be familiar. So Sønr is we're the scouting partner. So we do loads of work with the Lloyd's team and all the way through to the hundreds and hundreds of applicants. So to be selected, as you said, it's a great achievement. So congratulations on that. How's it working out for you? So how's your day-to-day, right? You're heading into the lab?
Yeah, we're in person 5 days a week in the lab. The
Great.
Lloyd's market is an in-person market. We plan to be there constantly and really make the most of this cohort. Look, we joined to bring a new product to market. It was that particular cohort that we were joining. I'd say we're making excellent progress. The wonderful thing about the Lloyd's market is the diversity of thought as well across the many stakeholders, from actuary teams, underwriters, people who lead the delegated underwriting authority teams at Lloyd's, who all offer really, really valuable pieces of feedback that we, of course, make part of our overall product roadmap. And one of the key ambitions of this company is we want our SF technology excellence, and we want to pair that with London, and especially Lloyd's of London, or I can't call them Lloyd's of London anymore, sorry, Lloyd's, insurance excellence. Pairing those two things together for us is going to be a wonderful thing, we hope, and is really going to set us apart from other people as well.
Love it. And how do you see it pushing the business, pushing the product, pushing what you're creating?
Sure. It's the Lloyd's brand as well. It's, it doesn't matter where you go, everyone understands who Lloyd's is. I
meant rather in the actual product development. So it's fine. It's a really ambiguous question. In terms of kind of where kind of sort of product is today, versus sort of either at the end of the lab, but also kind of like the journey beyond this. I'm assuming you're gaining a ton of intel that will allow you to create the product fit for purpose for the market, right?
Yeah. So great question. Ultimately, the product is being designed for the customer.
Yeah.
But I'll focus on one particular point here. In order to have a great insurance product, you need to be able to sell it. And the people that are selling it, of course, brokers. So from a startup world, with our obsession where we're in the weeds of AI risk, or in our case, generative AI risk, it can become quite complicated. So working with the stakeholders and Lloyd's, working with the brokers, make sure the product is simple, easy to understand, not complicated, is a real USP to us. And it's extremely valuable feedback when we get that from the market. Additionally, on stuff like pricing as well, we've got great actuary mentors who are coming in, looking at our models, checking that they're robust, and all of these things will help us long term.
Love it. Sorry, Freddie, I'm just going to stay with Mark just for one more on this one. Journey me through to, it's such a cliched question, so forgive me, right? It goes back to kind of like, when you get your first job, where do you see yourself in 5 years, Mark? But no, but generally, like, it's such a big space. Yeah. And I don't know if you've got any kind of market sizing, if any can be done around the opportunity that sits in front of you, right? But there is an enormity of business opportunity right now, but which will only continue over the next few years at a rate which is going to be incredibly difficult to keep pace with. But good luck if you're able to, right? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see Testudo over the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. So I won't go for TAMs.
Sure.
Haley Budd at Apollo would tell me off if I had a large TAM.
One of my favourite people.
Yeah, we're not going to come in and say it's $400 billion of GWP or something by 2030. We're focused right now on AI liability risks. our immediate goal for this company is get capacity and get selling a valuable product that one obviously offers a lot of value to our end clients and our capacity providers alike. However, more selfishly, looking at this market itself, this is a great time to be an underwriter. You've got many large classes of business that are changing massively. You just have to look at the auto liability market. It's now slowly, but will accelerate to become autonomous vehicles. You have the E&O market, which is going to become autonomous decisions and autonomous professional services. So when I look at Testudo, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, the aspirations absolutely for us is obviously to eventually build our own balance sheet, take some of these risks, and ensure a lot of these emerging risks that are now occurring. And of course, even we may want to dabble back into the digital asset market where I have a lot of experience. So for us, this is a real great opportunity to set up our own balance sheet long term. Obviously, the intermediate step is cover holder and MGA, but long term set up a balance sheet to write a lot of these new and emerging risks, which people are going to require risk transfers for.
Yeah, lovely. And Freddie, are you seeing the same potential? I mean, you must be, right? Otherwise, you're not going to be partnering. When you did your assessment, you found Testudo. When you're looking at the market, where do you see it? Where do you see the opportunities?
Yeah, so part of the reasons we were reviewing the market is we were getting inbound inquiries from potential customers for these sorts of products, right? Gallagher is an enormous global brokerage company. And so when we start getting inbound and there aren't products to service that, we see that as an opportunity. Now, we don't know how big this class can get. We don't yet have the data. We don't yet have the information. But what we do have is clients wanting to buy it. And therefore, we'll get live. We'll start selling them, and we are already placing this risk into the market with some of the other market participants. And my view is it will be a standalone class of business, and it has the potential to be a significant part of the global insurance market. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, cyber had just started going. It had sold some policies. People were asking whether it was a valuable business. I feel like we're in that same spot. The people who are driving it forward, like Testudo and Mark, they're the ones who are going to take advantage of the early years, and then who knows, right? If it gets to the size of cyber reinsurance, there are going to be many players, and it will be very much syndicated risk. But what a great place to be is to be first to that.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating. Yeah, just as Freddie's saying, we have so much inbound around this space, so I can only think it's going to be a very, very beautiful future for you, Mark. So congratulations getting into it. And,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and good luck with it as well. Chaps, I want to say a big thanks. I'm going to wrap it up. It's a beautiful thing, you guys coming together. Long may that continue. Good luck hitting the deadlines, Freddie.
Thank you.
Good work on that. Enjoy the Lloyd's Lab, Mark. It's a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully our paths will cross again. But and to you guys for tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning into this Beyond Boundaries interview. I wish you all the best, both of you, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.